Hello my bookworms, welcome back to my channel. My name is Sydney and today's video will be my June wrap up in a construction zone. And while we talk about the books, we will also be doing some painting. So hey, what's up? How are ya? I hope you're doing well. Thanks so much for being here and hanging out with me for a little bit. This wrap up is obviously going to be very different. It's almost like a vlog style because I have zero time to do anything nowadays and I need to be painting, but I also need to be creating content. So we are doing them both at the same time. Here I have the color that I am painting the trim in the house. We're doing like a contrast trim situation and it's looking really nice. If you've been watching the new house vlogs, you would have seen that in the last one. It's starting to come together, but we have to finish the rest of the trim downstairs and we're gonna be chatting about the books that I read in June. So the very first book that I read in the month of June was Starsight by Brandon Sanderson. This is book 2 in the Skyward trilogy. And if you remember my last wrap up, my May wrap up, you'll know that Skyward is now like one of my favorite books. I love it so much. I thought it was absolutely hilarious and I was super excited to read the next book in that series. Also, side note, if you hear construction sounds, it's because Caleb's upstairs working on our guest bathroom. So I'm gonna do my best to keep the volume low. I was very excited to read Starsight, but I quickly realized within the first 50 pages that the cast was going to be a lot different. And I will say that the first half of Starsight, I wasn't super impressed with. I really missed the cast of characters from the first book because in Starsight, they kind of mix it up. You don't follow everyone that you had in the first book. And I was a little bit bummed about that because I really loved all of those characters a whole ton. So it took some time to get used to the fact that I wasn't gonna see all of my favorite people. Granted, I did get some of them, but not all of them. And the story itself, it felt okay. It wasn't as exciting as the first book in my opinion, and it really didn't get exciting until like the latter half of the book. Almost the last like 100 to 150 pages is when I started to like really care about what was happening. But once I got to that like last 150 pages or so, I was super into it. It was super exciting again, but I wish it didn't take so long for me to care about the story. But on the flip side, I will say the advancement in some of the characters' arcs like Mbot and Doomslug, and obviously Spensa, she's our main character, but the advancements in the side characters like Mbot and Doomslug were literally incredible. Those plot twists really saved the book for me. I ended up giving it, I think, a 4 stars. I think I would rate it like a 3.5 to a 4 stars, but I would give it a 4 stars on Goodreads because Brandon Sanderson's writing is incredible and his storytelling is top tier, but the advancement of the story itself was just a lot less exciting for me than I wanted it to be. The next book that I read in the month of June was Darius the Great Is Not Okay. And also, if you see that it got on the wall over here, it's fine. I'm doing the trim first so that I can cover up messes when I actually paint the walls. Just wanted a side note because I know someone would probably say something. But it's fine. Darius the Great Is Not Okay was a mood read because I was a co-host in this Pride read-along that we were doing over on Instagram. There was a big number of us and it was super fun. I mood read a couple queer books and I'll get into the other one, but the first one was Darius the Great Is Not Okay. I didn't know that it was a series until I had finished the book because I think I went in expecting a few different things than what I ended up getting. There was a lot less romance than I was expecting, which is absolutely fine for that story. I think it worked really well for what that story was trying to do in the end of it. But while I was reading it, I didn't know exactly what the end goal was, you know what I'm saying? So looking back on it, I wish that I knew it was less about the romance and more about like the friendship and more coming of age of our main character. Oh, but what's his name? Obviously it's Darius. Wow, I need help. Our main character's name is Darius. Darius is a kid who was struggling with his mental health and is also having trouble fitting in with his peers. He and his family are going to Iran and this is his first time visiting this country. And there he meets a boy named Sarab who kind of takes him under his wing and invites him to play soccer, and they eventually get really, really close. And it's really about their friendship and Darius figuring out more than just his sexuality, because that's not overtly discussed, though it is hinted at. To my understanding, the further exploration of Darius's sexuality is explored a lot more in the second book, but I was expecting that to be in the first book as well. You know what? I don't appreciate.
I thought the same thing.
The mocking. Even though what I thought was going to be happening isn't what happened, at surface level of what this story is about regardless is also friendship. And thanks.
Action.
It's about friendship and finding people who care about you, finding people who understand and, you know, make space for you. I really loved this story for the friendship, and also watching Darius visit this country that he has such strong ties to but has never actually been. It was really special. I really, really liked it. My expectations were just a little bit off, so my enjoyment while reading the book was just fine. It was okay. I ended up giving it a 4 on Goodreads. I think in my heart it's like a 3.5 to a 4, because I do think that it's a great book. It was written really well and I'm really glad that it exists, but my reading experience personally was just not as great as I thought that it could be. The next book that I read in the month of June, I should know by now what month it was Jade Legacy by Fonda Lee. I finally finished the Greenbone Saga. Very excited about it. There was a lot of pain. In my reading vlog before this video came out, there is a lot of commentary and emotional B-roll that I will link down below if you want to hear like in-time thoughts with what was happening. But Jade Legacy is the third book in the Greenbone Saga. But since I do have a reading vlog kind of dedicated towards the majority of Jade Legacy, really quickly, I do think that Jade Legacy is my favorite of the whole trilogy. The timeline of how the story was actually told was super interesting and kept my brain really, really intrigued, because one chapter it could be like present day and then the next chapter could be like 6 years later. So then we would do a little bit of catch up on, well, this happened, so now this is where we're at type thing, and it was just really refreshing. My brain really liked it. Plus, it's with obviously all of my favorite characters, and I can't even get into the characters because I'll start crying. But truly, the Greenbone Saga is going down as one of my favorite series ever. Fonda Lee is just an incredible writer, and the politics and world and magic that she created is just really, really special. Super lush, very intricate, just absolutely stunning. It was 5 stars. I wish that you could see, you actually are about to see, what I'm doing to get these shots. You're literally balancing on trash. This is what it takes. But moving on, the next book that I read was actually A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. This was not planned. This is also in the same vlog that Jade Legacy is in, so this one will be quick because I go into detail on it in that vlog, obviously. But this one I read because I was a guest on the Reader Dare Extraordinaire, which is hosted by Christine and Monique, Rachel, and Noelle, and they had a TBR prompt for every single night that they hosted these reading sprints, and the TBR prompt that was on the night that I was part of was TBR Veteran. So I gave everyone a little poll of 3 different old thrillers that I've had on my TBR since like frickin' forever, and everyone chose A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. I knew that was gonna happen because it's like a booktube favorite. So I ended up reading that this month, and I felt that it was fine. I think that for me right now, where I'm at mentally is I'm more gravitated towards like adult books and not so much of YA protagonists. I don't know why, but that's just where I am right now. So I think that there was just some disconnects while reading this book for me where I didn't really care a whole lot, or I was just not as invested in the story as I think a lot of people are when they read this book. Like I said in that reading vlog, the one like fundamental thing that I couldn't really get past was the fact that this student who was doing this capstone project on trying to find out what actually happened with the murder of one of her past classmates, and she like goes like real secret detective on it, you know? Like, I just have a hard time believing that any teacher would allow a student to use that as her capstone project. And I know that like in her assignment she didn't like outright say that that was her end goal, was to like clear the person's name, but I feel like anything surrounding the murder of a past student would have been off limits to me. I just feel like that's a no-brainer. I feel like that's what would normally happen. But obviously not in this world, and that's all well and fine, I suppose. But I guess that being said, I wasn't bored enough to DNF it, obviously. Like, I wanted to see what was gonna happen. I wanted to see what the plot twists actually were, but it wasn't a story that I was dying to get back to when I wasn't actively reading the book. The story itself was just okay, but I will say that some of the final plot twists did get me. I did enjoy the ending. I really, really, really loved the epilogue. That was really nice. Loved that about the book. But ultimately, again, it was just an okay read for me. So I gave it a 4 on Goodreads, but I think it's closer to a 3, honestly. I'm getting a little sweaty now. The next book that I read last month was I Wish You All the Best by Mason Deaver. This was another one of my queer mood reads, which I am super happy about finally getting to. I know I've talked about multiple times on my channel where every time I saw this book like in a stack in my little like library room, I'd get this feeling when I looked at it, like, I know I'm gonna enjoy you, I need to get to you soon, and I finally got to it. I Wish You All the Best is about our main character, Ben, who came out to their family as non-binary and ended up getting kicked out of the house because of it. And so Ben reconnects with their long-lost sister, who also kind of left the house in sour terms, to say the least, and they haven't talked to their sister Hannah in over like 10 years. But obviously she takes them in and helps them switch schools and deal with everything that's going on. She gets them set up with a therapist, and you know, they're starting school, they're trying to make friends, but not really, because they kind of keep to themselves. But their best friend is actually a YouTube creator, which is a really kind of cute crossover. Being a creator and then reading about a relationship with a YouTube creator, it was just kind of cute. But I am truly upset that it took me so long to read this book because it was so good. Mason Deaver's writing is absolutely incredible. This is another book that I'm just really glad that it exists. The story obviously had some hard topics that got brought up, but there were also a lot of like positive and really beautiful moments as well. Like Ben finding the support system that they got and surrounding themselves with people who really care and understand, or at least are willing to understand, and also making decisions for themselves that is really difficult, but ultimately is what is right for them. And there was a little bit of romance within the story as well, and it was perfect. It was so wholesome, and I'm just so happy that I finally read it, and I cannot wait to read more from Mason Deaver. I gave this book 5 stars. The last 3 books that I read last month are all part of secret reading vlogs, so I'm not going to go into detail about them, but I wanted to let you know that I also read Untamed by Glennon Doyle, All Systems Red by Martha Wells, as well as Black Sun by Rebecca Roanhorse. I know I've already mentioned Black Sun, I think in my mid-year book freakout tag, so if you watched that, you already kind of know how I feel about it, but I did read those 3 books in the month of June as well, but that's all I'm saying about them in this video. So before I actually end the video, I will show you how the trim looks now, all of the work that we did today, but that is all that I have for you today. Thanks so much for being here and hanging out with me for a little bit. If you are watching, leave the paintbrush emoji down below in the comments, and while you're down there, don't forget to subscribe and like the video. I always appreciate your support, and of course, be kind to one another and happy reading. Bye.